Today on Addiction Talk, my recovery story, we're joined by Frank Pace, an Oxford Treatment Center alumni and an advocate for veteran care with a powerful story and firsthand experience in recovery. Frank is a veteran and works with the VA in the PTSD unit. He's here to share his journey, insights, and the impact of support in overcoming addiction. Stay tuned for an honest and inspiring conversation. Here's his story.
Frank, thank you so much for joining us on Addiction Talk, my recovery story, because we know that there's power in sharing stories because it makes people out there feel like they are less alone. So thank you so much for agreeing to share your story. What made you say, I'm okay with sharing it now?
Oh, wow. I don't know, really, I don't know if it was really just one thing. I do think it is important to, for people to know that, there are other people like them. I think that was one of the really big impacts that kind of kept me coming to the rooms was seeing that there were other people struggling with the same struggles and, getting through them, living life. And, so that kind of kept me coming back as, finding that connection, and people that don't necessarily look like me or talk like me or from the same areas as me, but they had the same fight, I guess. Yeah.
And for you, you're on a huge milestone. You've made it to 10 years, which
Almost.
is almost 10 years. Okay. You've made it almost to 10 years in your recovery, which is huge. But I think what's so interesting about your story, Frank, is that you went to treatment 3 different times before you found 10 years of sobriety. Why do you think it was that last time that really stuck for you? What was different about that time?
I've been asked that question a lot, actually. And it was I don't know. I think the biggest factor was that I had finally done enough research, as they say. I was finally ready. I had tried as many ways as I could possibly come up with to do it on my own, to do it my way, to control it, to use successfully, as they say, and it just never worked. It was just butt kicking after butt kicking, and so like what was different treatment wise, I had really good experiences all 3 times I went to treatment. I don't know if that, I'm sure that's not everyone's story. I would say I was fortunate. I had insurance at the time that hadn't gotten cut off yet, thankfully. So I went to the Oxford Center twice. I think it's the Oxford Treatment Center now. And then I went to Greenhouse, which is in Texas. I would say the treatment experience was a little different. I think I've learned more about the the science behind addiction, like how it works in the brain and all that stuff. Or that's what I picked up on anyway, mostly at Oxford Treatment Center, which was very important for me. It kind of let me know I wasn't just a bad person, that this was a disease. There was a reason behind, the things I was doing, like the survival aspect of it. How we correlate our drug abuse, our drug of choice to our survival. And I think at Greenhouse, to me, and I do think we find what we're looking for a lot, right? Whether we know it going into the situation or not, but I found a lot more coping mechanisms at Greenhouse. I don't know if that was planned, but that's kind of what I picked up on. But mostly I do think it was kind of, I was at the end of my rope too. I was kind of much more willing to take suggestions, I think. I don't know. I would say most of all, it was probably like I was just done. Like I couldn't keep going, and it was, like the perfect storm of me being ready and I'm hearing what I needed to hear and getting plugged back into a good community, back in Oxford.
So why do you think for those many years that you struggle when you said, I got to try to do this on my own? I think that's common. Like so
Oh, yeah.
many people think I can just do this on my own. Why do you think you were so bent on trying it on your own?
I'm not sure. I think I think it's with most things. I don't think it was just one thing. I think addicts in general, and I'm not putting everyone in the same vein or whatever, but for the most part, addicts are very smart, very strong, very stubborn, very tough. And like I think we think we're going to be the one, because like we do, like for whatever reason, I don't know if science has caught on to this aspect of it yet, but like we place that really high importance, and I think maybe on that whatever it is that gives us that magical feeling. So like I placed that really high importance on it, so therefore I wanted to do anything I could do to feel that again. I also think part of it, like I guess the more years pass by, I guess the more I don't know if insightful is the right word, but like I guess the more I reflect on it, I think a lot of it too is I didn't have good coping skills, even from childhood, right? I leaned on like childhood, I leaned on being a good athlete, and like that kind of fixed all my problems, right? That's how I identified. That's how I validated myself. Same like going into the Army, right? And then like those things are gone. I have nothing to validate myself for who I am or to cope with my feelings of being less than or whatever it might be. And yeah, I had that magical moment where I felt a certain way, and after taking a certain substance, and it's like, well, there's my coping mechanism, and then like that high importance is placed on that substance at that point, so it's genetics as well, probably, like you have that that genetic disposition, so it's, I don't know. I think it's more than just one thing, but I think that what is it, that euphoric recall of that first time too is very strong.
Tell me about that first time. What do you remember? How old were you?
I
Like,
remember every single thing about that moment. Still to this day. That was more than 10 years ago, obviously. That was 2009, so that would have been 15 years ago now, for that specific thing. Like I had been showing addict tendencies from probably I was, I'd been doing different things since I was about 14, but nothing ever grabbed me like that first OC did, that first Oxycontin did. I was on the way home. I was stationed at Fort Campbell, which is right outside of Nashville. I'm from Memphis.
mm-hmm.
And I was driving back to Memphis. It was like only a 3-hour drive. There was a wreck coming into Memphis, and my younger brother lived outside of Memphis. And I was like, well, I don't want to sit in traffic. So I went over there. He was like, hey, go try this. I was like, okay, I go try it. Cause I was getting out of the Army at that point. So I didn't care about like drug tests or anything. And yeah, I went into his bathroom, green tile bathroom, Head and Shoulders in the shower, toothbrush right here, toothpaste right here, his girlfriend's hair products over here. And I kind of knew right away. I was like, that was amazing. It might have felt too good. I might be in trouble. And I go right outside and ask him if he had another one. Like it was, yeah, I would say it was probably on from there on out. I didn't know how bad it was going to get, obviously. But it was love at first sight, so to speak,
Mm-hmm. And I think even the fact that you can recall so much of it is just shows the impact it had on you. But I think you said something really profound, that you didn't realize how much it would get out of control, or that just that one time. How bad would you say it got for you?
Well, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I don't like to work in absolutes or speak for anyone, but like I would be willing to bet that. I mean, if anyone were put in that situation, and you told them where it was going to go. I mean, they would at least think twice about it. I mean, I would like to think I would be like, well, if I know it's going to get there, then I might not do this. Like that being said, I don't know that. Like I might have been stubborn enough to be like, you know what, you're wrong. You know, like
Because you
because
didn't think it would happen to you.
yeah, yeah. I mean, never in a million years. You know, and like the scary part about addiction for me anyway is like where I started to where I ended up, like it's a slow trickle, right? Like I didn't start off like the preppy white kid, like, you know, buying pills from like a college kid or something to, you know, robbing drug dealers on Hollywood Boulevard in Memphis, like one of the most dangerous places in the country almost, you know, it's like, that wasn't overnight, obviously. Like that would have been a big shock to the system type thing and made me think about it at least a little bit, right? But it's that slow trickle that like it's your normal. Like, why is everyone making such a big deal about this? Isn't, you know, like this is my normal. I'm, you know, and it's that's the scary part of addiction. And you're telling yourself that you're okay. Like these people don't know what they're talking about. I'm okay. I wouldn't lie to myself. Like, yeah. So it's like it's that slow transition that's really dangerous because you don't see, you know, the changes until you're out of it.
So what you were explaining just a second ago, Frank, was you the difference between the two? Were you describing your journey there?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. It was, I remember right before I went to treatment my second time, I think. And this is like, this was about, this was probably about 9 months before I went to treatment for my last time. Cause like I went to treatment those 3 times within the span of like 13 months. So I had like I'd gotten to the point like it was it wasn't the rock bottom, I would say, yet, but it was close. But I had lied to my parents, told them that I owed this drug dealer money, and he knew where I lived, and that I was worried about him coming to my house, you know, and breaking in or whatever, and you know, which wasn't true. I just wanted to get some money to go get more to before I went to treatment. Well, my dad was like, "Look, Frank, I'm not giving you cash." I was like, "Well, then come with me." And so I texted the drug dealer. I told him what was going on. You know, just slip it in the bag. Da 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 da. And he was fine with it. So like my dad is with me sitting in front of this drug dealer's house in the projects. Like, I mean, cops driving around everywhere, drug dealers walking around everywhere, you know, and he's a big guy. Like he played football at Ole Miss. He was an offensive lineman. Like
This is your dad
big,
you're talking about?
yeah, big dude. Like, and he's sitting there sweating bullets, like looking around like, oh my God, what's going on? And I was like, Dad, what is wrong with you? Calm down. We are fine. He goes, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with you that you're not scared to death? He used, you know, different language, but
I can imagine.
yeah. And, you know, like in my head, I'm like, he's being such a baby. Right. And like, you know, but, you know, like in reality, like, you know, cause like they say in our literature, our reality is askew, right? Like I wasn't seeing the world for what it was in that moment. I wasn't seeing the danger because like my, you know, what is it? My midbrain is telling me I have to have this no matter what. So like nothing else matters. So yeah, like looking back on that, you know, that is, I wish it would have been as impactful as it is now in the moment, obviously, you know, cause like looking back, I'm like, Jesus, that is like, that's crazy, you know? But yeah, when I was in the moment, it was fine. But yeah, I mean, it was stuff like that, you know, like my house was completely empty. Like anything that I could fit in my car to take to the pawn shop was gone. the only reason I still, and something that I used to separate myself, like those first couple of times through treatment too, I was like, well, I'm not living under a bridge. I'm not in jail. I'm not that wasn't because of me. It's because I had people enabling me. Like my parents
Mhm.
paid my mortgage so that my house didn't get foreclosed on, and paid the electric to make sure the power stayed on. My aunt is an amazing attorney that, made sure I didn't,
Mhm.
so it was, I would use those things to separate myself from everyone else, saying I'm better than them. Like, um, and after that second time in treatment, that kind of all stopped though.
Mhm. You kind of had this moment where you realize what's really going on. Did you ever during that time, Frank, think that you might die? Like was death or the fear of
Oh,
overdose,
sure.
any of
Yeah.
that?
I never like just straight out attempted suicide. I for sure thought on many occasions, like if I don't wake up, that's fine. Nodding out driving all the time. I was like, well, if I hit the median, that's okay. You know, but I mean, like I also kind of went to lengths to make sure that it didn't happen too, though. So it was like it was a weird dynamic. Like my buddies and my wife, they joke with me. I used to have to drive to work super early, so I'd go by my drug dealer's house on the way, and I'd kind of be nodding out, headed to work, driving, and be like 4:30 in the morning or something, and I'd get out of my car and start jumping around, screaming on the side of the road, trying to stay
Mhm.
awake. It's like, what do you think those people passing by thought? But,
Mhm.
I mean, it was, yeah, it was getting bad. I think I think my first time to treatment, I weighed 164 pounds at 6'2",
Yeah.
which was, yeah, I looked like Skeletor pretty much. It was bad. Like my skin was just saran wrap to my bones. My wife and I were at my grandfather's funeral. I don't know how long, like 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, before we moved up here. Um, and like there was like, they have those pictures playing on a projector or whatever, like
Mhm.
just scrolling through a camera roll. And they had a picture of me when I was in active addiction up there. I mean, obviously not showing that, but it was just like I was with my grandfather or something. And we both saw it at the same time. And it was like, oh my God, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
like you kind of forget about those things. Like I erased all the pictures from Facebook and stuff long ago because like I would get those reminders on Facebook and it's just like, I don't want to see that anymore. Like,
Mhm.
um, it would make me throw up in my mouth almost.
Mhm.
Like I weigh like 200 pounds now, which is a fairly healthy weight for me, but yeah, it's about what I weighed when I got out of the army, I would say. So,
So when you decided that last time to go to treatment, what made you say, I'm going to give it one more try?
um, I don't know. I think a lot of it was I did have a lot of people on my side. I did have support. It was kind of the love from afar from family. I had been in the rooms, in and out of the rooms in Oxford, and so I was still getting support from those people a little bit. Um, the clinical director, the first couple times I was, he's not anymore, but I don't know if I should say his name, but he's been a big inspiration. I really kind of connected with him, and this guy had. So when I was in treatment, he had 27 years, so he's probably like almost 40 years now. Um,
Mm.
and like this guy travels the country, like talking about the science of addiction and how it works in the brain and everything. And he would tell stories when we were at AA meetings. I would always go listen to him talk. He was in AA, I'm in NA, but if he was speaking, I was going. Um, and he used to always say, people were like, how did you go from those stories you're telling to the person that we see before us today? And he
Mhm.
said, I didn't die and I kept coming back. It's just that simple. Like,
And
I
that
mean,
stuck with you?
just keep coming back. Like,
Mhm.
like, it just that little thing, I think is just like kind of starts with that willingness piece. Just keep coming back no matter what. Like no one's asking you to be perfect. No one's asking you to like it, and just keep coming back. I have a really good friend that says he does it out of spite. You know, like I don't care why you're doing it. I'm just glad that you're doing it. You know, and
keep coming back.
Yeah, that the hope will start rubbing off on people. You know, the gratitude for life again will start rubbing off. You know, so
Yeah, because I
like,
do think like when you hear other people's stories and you see other people, it was like you had someone who was like who modeled it for you,
yeah,
who showed you
oh,
it was
sure.
possible.
Yeah,
You know, that this is possible when you're in there. You know, what I'm also curious about is like going to treatment. Of course, you connect with this clinical director who you still stay in contact with, which I love that, or still follow in some extent. But then also, what did you find about yourself? What did you uncover in treatment that helped you also? Because I know you said when you look back, you had a difficult time like managing emotions or how you felt about yourself, or really who am I without being the athlete or without being in the military? Who am I? So what did you discover during that treatment process?
gosh.
I asked the hard questions.
Yeah, treatment. I don't know. Like I said before, I think treatment, more than anything, let me know that I wasn't just a terrible person for the things that I had done. Like there was at least a driving motivation behind the actions. You know, because like with opiates, a lot of times people don't do bad things when they're on it. They do bad things to get more because they cost so much, right? And so like I couldn't come to terms with how did I do these things when I say I'm this type of person. Like, you know, like the things that I was doing wasn't matching up at all with my morals and my character. So I was like, well, you know, I'm just a bad person, or I'm a sociopath or something like, you know, which obviously a sociopath would never think that they're a sociopath, but you know, it's yeah. So I was like, I guess just first coming to terms with, like there's something to this other than as they say in AA, a moral deficiency.
Right.
You know, so that was very important, I guess, to start the process of learning to validate myself, learning that I did have assets, you know. Now that did take a while, and I obviously still struggle with those, but I mean,
But it's like knowing you're valuable regardless.
Sure. Yeah,
like
I mean,
your worth.
yeah, you know, like I was saying earlier, like with sports, like I would take the fact that I'm better than you in football, and I would put that, I would just blanket that over everything. Like if I'm better than you at football, then I'm a better person in general, right? I'm better at everything, you know, and neither of those things are true, you know, like, and like I wasn't good at football just because of myself. I had great teammates and great coaches too, you know, and like I never saw those things when I was in it. I was the one winning these awards. I was the one, you know, going, you know, becoming a sniper in the Army, like, you know, like, but I don't know if I ever did or just let myself like be like, well, I was taught to do these things. I wasn't born with like I was born with athletic ability, but like you have to have good coaching to rise above like the high school level or something. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just me doing these things, but my like my lack of belief in myself in any other area made that one thing kind of, you know, take over and kind of get on steroids, so to speak, you know.
Do you think, I know you said the first time that you took the painkiller was you had left the military. Do you think having to be in military life and readjusting to civilian life and all that, do you think that also played a role in any of you turning or willing to try something?
You know, I don't know. But like I said, like I'd been drinking a lot. I had tried marijuana. I had tried other pain pills. I had tried cocaine. I'd tried everything. But I always had something else that had filled that void, right? Like, you know, so I never let it get too far out of control. You know, like there were some moments for sure growing up that it's like looking back, it's like, yep, yeah, that is total addict behavior, right? The kind of binge part of it. I would tell myself it's okay because like I just did it on these 2 days, but not these other days. You know what I mean? And so it was kind of easier to hide, right? I guess. But I don't. I think it made it easier for me to try things, knowing that I was getting out of the military. I don't think I did it because of the military.
Right.
Um, I just think it's like I didn't have to take drug tests anymore. I didn't have to like stay on top of my game because I wasn't deployed. I didn't, and so it just made it easier on my conscience, I guess. I don't know. Like it's one of those things that like I said, I think, like the main thing that was kind of keeping me from doing it all along was there was something else filling that void. Like whether it was football or the Army, once those things were gone, it was like, I wasn't doing it because I was sad about those things. Rather, I did it because they weren't there anymore. So I didn't have to I wasn't afraid of getting caught, like I didn't have to worry about drug tests and stuff anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, let's do this, not knowing the effect that it would have.
Mm-hmm. So let's go fast forward to today, because I know you have so many insights and golden nuggets to share with people just from your journey. But what does it feel like to be 10 years sober?
Surreal.
Mm.
Like, I mean, it's weird. I was, my wife and I were walking my dog. I think this was 3 or 4 days ago, even. And like I'd said something because like I don't know, it was amazing the things that I got away with and talked people into when I was using, like by manipulating and lying and all that stuff. And I just made a comment. I was like, like I don't even know that I could do it anymore because I don't feel like I could manipulate people as well as I used to be able to. It was like like I start to feel like I feel stress and anxiety now, which back then I didn't, right? And like I don't even know if I could do that anymore. And I mean, she kind of giggled, and I was like, well, obviously, if I started using again, I'm sure I'd be able to do that stuff again, But I mean, it's stuff like that. It's like today, I guess having those emotions, it definitely changes how you see the world. And with that being said, like I totally like early recovery, like I hadn't felt any type of feeling in almost 10 years or something, right? And maybe
No
more.
emotion?
Yeah, well, none. No. I mean, like I don't want to feel the things that I was doing or hiding from at that point, like especially once I started using, like, because like I said, like the character and morals don't match up with my actions, right? So that makes me feel bad, and like that whole cycle, right? So yeah, like and so I don't know, I just cut them off. I just acted like that whole avoidance thing, right? And you stop using, and they tell you to feel things, and it's like you're overwhelmed with it, and then trying to regulate that. I feel like that's still something that I work on. Like I, I'm teased that I think feelings are stupid, but like that isn't the whole truth. Like I think feelings are important. I try to make sure they don't run my life anymore. Like I try to, and try to is the key word, right?
Right.
Like give them the respect they deserve, so to speak.
But now at nearly 10 years, I know you're close to hitting your 10-year mark.
December 10th.
Does it get any easier? Like people may say, in that first year, it's, challenging, but do you feel like it's always challenging, or do you feel like it gets to a point that you get into a rhythm?
I think life doesn't get easier. I think the fact that I know that I don't need to use gets easier. Like, I mean, I can't tell you. I don't know the last time I had an urge to use. Thinking about it, like, and this is a voluntary thought process. Obviously, we have thoughts come and go, and like we can't control that. Like we can control how we respond to those thoughts now, but like I can't remember the last time I was just sitting around hanging out, being like, damn, I wish I could have this. Like I just don't like I know from lots of practice that it's not going to turn out well for me. Now, does that mean that I still have like those like euphoric recall moments? Absolutely, I do. Like
Mhm.
even to this day, if I hear a pill bottle rattle, my nose will start running. Like I'll get chills. I'll start sweating, goosebumps. I mean, it doesn't happen every time, but like it still happens.
Mhm.
Um, and that honestly, like it's a good reminder for me as well. It's like it's
But
not
this is
going.
a lifelong
Yeah,
journey.
yeah.
Right.
And like so, like maintaining. I guess I don't know if that's what you're saying. Like,
Yes.
yes, that has gotten unbelievably easier. Like,
Mhm.
um, like because it's just part of who I am now.
Right.
It's like I've come to terms with like there are limitations to things that I can or should do. I've come to terms with the fact that what's that saying, like just because I can doesn't necessarily mean I should.
You should.
Right?
Yeah.
Is the juice worth the squeeze? So like
Mhm.
just understanding these things. You were talking about support system and my wife. Like I would say I'm very lucky with that as well.
Because your wife is also in recovery.
Yeah, and that's what like. So I think we're both. Well, I'm not going to talk for her, but like I feel lucky.
Mhm.
And
Because she understands?
not because of the fact that she's like, oh, you need to do you need to do this, you need to do that, but she just understands, right? I mean, like she
Right.
knows, like I don't work her steps and she doesn't work mine. Like I don't work her program, she doesn't work mine.
Mhm.
But we're there if we want to talk about something, right?
Did y'all meet in recovery, in treatment?
No, I have a lot more time than she does.
Okay.
2 weeks, and I never let her forget it. I've got 2 more weeks than she has. No, we met in we met in the rooms in Oxford. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, after
So
she
you
was
met in
she was
treatment?
in she was in sober living, I think, and like they were bringing her to meetings. That's when we met. We didn't start dating for like another, I don't know, like a year and a half maybe.
Mhm.
But yeah. I mean, I feel fortunate. And yeah, I mean, I know of people that have relationships with people that aren't in the rooms, and I mean, it seems to work well for them. But I think it's easier doing it, like this, like having that support, that built-in
Mhm.
support system. So yeah, I mean,
That's you. And I understand too now, Frank, you give back as a peer support specialist or a peer specialist.
I do. For me, one of the main things that I've loved about recovery in general is service.
Mm.
Um, I've always liked helping people for one reason or another in all aspects of my life. I think it gives me purpose, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, I guess it's kind of selfish on my part too, but like it helps me when I'm helping others. And it always has. I think that was one of the big things that kind of that void that I was talking about needed to be filled. Like when I was
Like
getting out
that
of
purpose.
recovery, yeah, I had to like
Mhm.
it was that was a big piece of it, just having a purpose bigger than myself, doing
Mhm.
something that had meaning for someone other than myself.
Mhm. And when you
It
see
can have meaning for me as well, but meaning for others as well.
so when
Um,
you see people, Frank, do you see yourself in them as you're going back to help people? Are you like, oh my gosh, I
sometimes,
yeah.
sometimes,
Mhm.
like I can always identify with the feelings,
Mhm.
and I think so. Like I've kind of gotten in my work and a lot, like I guess in the rooms, although we haven't been to a ton of meetings lately, but um, I always try to. So like I work in the PTSD unit now, which there's a lot of substance abuse treatment as well. But I started off in substance abuse, but I always try to stay away from the substance. I always try to stay away from the things you did. I always try to stay like the direct actions, right? And with
Mhm.
PTSD work, I try to stay away from the traumatic events, right?
Mhm.
Not that those things aren't important, but for our purposes in this moment, like what does that event or what does that thing that you did while you were using, how does that make you feel? Like
Mhm.
what do you feel when you think about those events? Because like that's something that we can connect on. I might not have done the same things you did,
Mm-hmm.
like, but I guarantee you those I could have done this and you did this, and we both feel
The same.
anxiety about this, or sadness about
Mm-hmm.
this, or grief about this, or whatever it is. So like those feelings can bring us together. They unify us instead of separate us, right? So
And
like,
so what do you do as a peer support specialist? Does that mean, what do you do as a peer support specialist? What does that involve? Are you just
now,
here?
So now with the PTSD unit, I just run different groups, like process groups. I do individual therapy. I participate in staffing. Going in, talking about all the new patients and all the old patients, like kind of, and yeah, like really, like my main focus for the past like year and a half, I would 2 years since I've been with a PTSD unit, it's like, let's work on coping skills, like, and a lot of it isn't. So like I run a Vietnam era group as well, and they're kind of past the so-called combat trauma, but like life still happens, right? And like the main factor in the continuation of PTSD symptoms is avoidance. Some of these guys have been avoiding treatment for 40 years, right? So like we get into that, and like their therapists and their counselors are going to get into like the big brain smart stuff. I'm a doctor, psychiatrist, like I'm not doing that. like I'm breaking it down. Like, okay, so you felt scared when this happened. All right, well, let's talk about it. What are some things that we can do to prepare ourselves? Because like that's going to happen again. Unless you lock yourself in the house, like this is going to happen again. Right. So like, let's talk about a way we can cope with it. Like let's put boundaries in place. Let's tell our wife things like this bother us. Let's have a plan before we go out. I mean, just like I learned in NA, like, and in the Army, prepare for the worst. Because like,
isn't it crazy when you think about it to some extent that now this changed your career trajectory, like what you probably thought you'd be doing. Now you're like helping other people in this way, never knowing that this was where your life was going to be, or how you'd end up giving back to the world in this way.
It's funny. Somebody was asking me like what I did right when I got out of the Army, compared to what it looks like now, and it is unbelievably different. So like right when I got out of the military, one of my really close friends, his dad owned a couple car dealerships. And this is when I was kind of starting to get into using as well. So I had become pretty unreliable, right? So I was getting moved around all these jobs with him, still making really good money. Like I was doing anything from marketing to working the floor to selling part, like making good money. And but I couldn't keep one specific job to run that department because of my unreliability, right? So I think I worked with him for a few years, and I had a friend growing up and I'd say more through kind of college. He was working at Merrill Lynch, and he was like, "Hey man, come work with me." We knew like kind of high net worth people, so it was like I didn't even I never made one trade, never did anything. I just brought people into him, right? I was out schmoozing, bringing people into him, so like kind of like the fancy jobs, making a lot of money, but worthless, like broke as hell, and not being able to keep a job. Oh, like worked with ran some Taco Bells and like kind of got them built from the ground up and opened up and started. The guy that ran that had like 250 Taco Bells from Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky, and had like what most people would say, like really really good jobs, like things to be proud of, right? But I just felt like crap, right? Like none of that stuff mattered to me anyway. Like they do matter to those people, right?
You feel like what you do every day, you can tell it matters.
Yeah. Now that doesn't mean that it's all rainbows and sunshine either. There are still difficult times for sure working in that type of field, I would say. And I mean, if we're being honest, you have to work with people too. that might have different outlooks on things, or different treatment plans, or and that hasn't happened since I've been in the PTSD unit. But like it was getting very hard for me to go into work when I was at the substance abuse floor at the VA.
Oh, so you work at the VA?
Yeah.
You do this through the. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. I knew you were talking,
it,
but I didn't know that you're doing this through the VA. So you're actually doing this for veterans. That's so awesome.
Yeah. I tell like, especially the Vietnam era guys, like they have helped me so much too. Like, cause like, I mean, if I'm being honest, like those are the guys that I looked up to before I even got into the military, that probably had a huge impact on me going into the military, like that era. Them and World War II era. Cause it's like, like these guys had honor, they had bravery, they had all the things that I wanted to say I had, or that I strived to have.
Right.
And being able to be there for them and help them, but also listen to them, like learning to navigate the VA and all that stuff. Like it is hard, it is daunting, it is overwhelming because it's such a big network, and like they've been doing it for like 40 or 50 years. So they're like, Frank, I got you. You're going here. Like the first year I was in the PTSD department. Like those guys were just running. Like if I wasn't running their group, they were running me ragged, trying to get me connected and all this stuff. And like I wasn't about to say no to them. It was like
you're like, whatever you need, I'm here.
They all know my wife. They all like every time I come in, like they're all like, how's Sue? And I'm like, her name is Susie. I'm like, and, they're like, I know, but like to us, she's Sue. I was like, all right, man.
Well, you just seem, when I hear you, Frank, you just seem at peace and happy, and that you found like this purpose for yourself. But then
I think it's easy to feel that way when you have that sense of freedom, right? And that's kind of what I try to like tell these guys about. Is like, look, treatment's going to be difficult. I mean, if it wasn't difficult, you'd have done this on your own a long time ago. There are going to be times where it's hard, but like the long-term freedom is well worth that short-term discomfort, and because like we go through life, or I know I did, trying to control everything in the outside world, like the people, the circumstances, the places, all that stuff. Right. And it's like, you can't do it. It's impossible, so like, wait a minute, let's learn to maybe work on controlling how I respond to the world around me, because I can control that for the most part. Or much more so than I can the outside world, right? Not react to the world, respond to the world around me. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's where that freedom comes from. And I think that's that's kind of what I try to share with them,
Mm-hmm. And I just have one last question for you. There has been this really big trend on social media about like, if you could have coffee with your younger self, what would you tell that person? And we've been talking about like, if you could go back and talk to yourself who was in the midst of all of that, when you were struggling with addiction, what do you think you would tell that person?
Ooh, I don't know. Like, I don't know that I would tell that person anything. I would probably run from that person if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a tough question. You might be mad at me with the answer for that, but like, I don't know that I would tell him anything, because if I did tell him that, I don't know that I'd be where I am today. And I really like where I'm at today.
So you think the journey got you to where you are? So you think
one of the most important things I heard was a speaker talking about at a convention, and she said that she did a time countdown type thing, and there's obviously a bunch of newcomers there, and she was like, if I could give you a year clean right now, I wouldn't do it. And like right away in my head, I'm like, that's the meanest thing I've ever heard. And, because like, I'm suffering right now. Like, I might throw up from withdrawing at this moment, but she followed it up. She's like, because there are so many hard-won battles that you have to fight and win and learn how to fight in that first year, that I would be neglecting you a lot, so it's like, So like you need those struggles to be able to get to that good part, right? Like now that doesn't mean you're struggling alone either. Like I had to learn that the hard way too. If I'm struggling alone, that's my fault. Like that's because I'm not reaching out for help. But like, I mean, I guess if I did have to tell that guy something, it would probably be the who, be as open-minded as you can, as willing as you can, and as honest as you can at the time, which wouldn't have been much at that time. But I guess maybe instilling that early on, maybe once I did get to the point where I started going to treatment, I might have gotten it faster, because I was very closed-minded in the beginning. I would say overall, like with almost all of my beliefs, yeah, it's weird. Like I was friends with people that were exactly like me, for my entire life, until I got to recovery. Now I've like my recovery community back in Oxford. Like I don't know that there was really anyone that was from the same places or had done the same. Like I surrounded myself. Like I was skateboarding with these guys. I was doing, just like all kinds of stuff, and I loved it. Right? I mean, just trying new things and being around new people, like trying to see the world through their eyes, right? Like learning from their experience, and which I never would have done before recovery, ever.
And I think one thing, as I was thinking about it, you probably could tell that person, your younger self, who's going through this, that it's going to get better.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You're going to marry this amazing woman. You're going to meet her. So just trust the process, and there is hope at the end of all of this.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, no, well, yeah, there's no doubt. And like, I mean, to be honest, like, I'm sure there were some people trying to tell me that, and, like, subconsciously, maybe that is why I kept coming back, because that a little bit of hope was there, right? I just couldn't put my finger on it, maybe. But yeah, I mean, I would say if I could go back to that guy first round in treatment, I would definitely be just like, look, I know you think I'm crazy, but I'd just scream it in his face a bunch, but yeah, I'm as crazy as it sounds, and I'm sure you probably have heard this before. I'm glad things turned out the way they did, for sure. I would be I don't know if disappointed is the right word, but like I think I would be disappointed if I wasn't where I was today. Now that doesn't mean I'm proud of those things back then, obviously, but like they played a role in making me who I am now, and I learned from them. I think that's one of the important parts of the program is like kind of learning from those less than stellar actions from our background, like without the shame and guilt, because like that's where like the step work comes in. It separates the shame and guilt from those behaviors, right? And now I can learn from them so that I don't repeat them. And so yeah, I mean, I think I think everything plays a role. Yeah, and I would love to be able to tell me that a long time ago and have me listen.
But hopefully somebody who's hearing your journey, it will give them hope.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I mean, that's
one thing you said,
Yeah. Well, you hear people all the time. And I was one of those people that said, well, maybe this isn't just like this is just not going to work for me. Right. Because I'm too different. I'm too I had gotten to the point like this is where addicts can get like not that, oh, boo-hoo me, but like it's boo-hoo me. I'm the worst thing ever. Right. It's like, I was like, I'm going to be the addict that lives the rest of his life just like this. Like, and like I was like getting so down on myself. I was like, I'm probably never even going to OD. Like I'm going to have to live until I'm 90 years old like this, like how, like that is so depressing and so sad and so inaccurate, like anybody can get this, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Like all you got to do is just keep showing up, just keep coming back. Like, because the thing is like, I don't really know. I'm trying to think, I might know of three or four people that only went to treatment one time. Like most people have to keep coming back, now some more than others, obviously, but yeah, I mean, like no one's perfect. Stop trying to be perfect. Just try to be a little bit better every day. Right. I mean, like that's doable. You're not setting yourself up for unrealistic expectations. And so, yeah, there is always hope, I just have to go looking for it.
I love that. And that is a great way to end our interview, Frank. Thank you for being so transparent and vulnerable. And you gave us so many golden nuggets and so much hope for that person who may be struggling or going through and having to go to treatment again. So I really appreciate you coming on Addiction Talk, my recovery story, and sharing your journey with us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.